Welcome to You Are the Cure, a spiritual journey to overcome your trauma, heal your pain, and embody your essence. I'm your host, Chloe Urban. I'm so excited to be on this journey of healing with you. It is my mission to give you knowledge and tools to help you dismantle stress and trauma in your life that may be at the source of your chronic physical and emotional pain. During this retreat journey, we are taking a deep dive look into healing on all levels: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, energetic, and genetic. Each guest will be sharing their incredible wisdom and also be guiding us through a practice or experience to help us get to the root of our discomfort and access our inner healing potential. I hope you enjoy today's conversation.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Kimberly.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I just want to introduce people to who you are, and then we can just dive right into questions and everything. So, as a board certified holistic health practitioner, certified by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners, speech pathologist and yoga therapist Kimberly helps clients of all ages reclaim their health and vitality, free themselves from chronic and mystery symptoms and autoimmune disease, and lead healthy, hopeful lives. By paying special attention to the interplay between nutrition and emotional health, she is able to view the body as a whole and achieve her mission to empower women by encouraging them to trust their inner wisdom to become their best selves and ensure the healthy development of their children. I'm just so thrilled to have you here today with us, and really excited to jump into the conversation. I have so many exciting topics to cover with you today. So I'm first curious to just hear a bit about your journey. I know it was a really hard health journey for you, and can you speak about the Lyme and then how you actually came into health?
Yeah, so I've kind of always been interested in alternative health, not because I was always healthy and very active and really into eating good foods and things like that. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, I was working in a medical setting, living my best life, had just got married, we built a new house, had just started a new career, was really super happy. And one day I was walking in the woods with my husband on a Sunday, just having a nice day. And the next morning I woke up with neurological symptoms. It included things like tremors. I was tremoring like someone with Parkinson's. I was having, brain fog. I was having all kinds of tingles and numbness and, my fingers just going completely, numb or not having feeling and the symptoms would kind of come and go. I would have one and then I'd have another and then I'd have all of them. And then it got, it kind of ebbed and flowed there for a while. Until one day I kind of had something happen in my health where I was rushed to the hospital. I had a white spot in my eye and, I actually thought I was having a stroke. Long story short, that started the cascade of like conventional doctors first. And it was, neurologists and, infectious disease doctors. I ended up, they thought I had leukemia. It went from this broad spectrum of like, why is your white blood cell count so low? And, what is going on in your body, these high inflammatory markers, and nobody could really put their finger on what it was. But at one point I was told, don't even go into the supermarket in the wintertime because your immune system is just shot. So you can imagine how incredibly scary that was. Not only was I having these strange symptoms, I had this paperwork that was telling me that something is wrong with your body. And that I think took it to the next level, because as we're kind of talking about anxiety and fight or flight, just having that thought of like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. Nobody's really figuring out what's going on with me. And my original diagnosis was Lyme. So that's kind of, I got in with the Lyme doctors and all of that. And then it's like, okay, antibiotics. And after you do the antibiotics, then what? Then it's herbal medicines and all of those things. And in my specific case, the antibiotics knocked me back. I ended up way worse than I was before I started. And that's where it got really interesting and really scary. And then it's like, okay, well, who am I going to now? Like I've seen these conventional doctors, and then I started with like functional medicine practitioners, and bits and pieces and baby steps, little pieces of me came back, but I never really got the whole, recovery that I was looking for until much later in my journey.
And what was that? What was that final piece that really got you to full vitality and health?
Yeah. So I got myself back to, first it was like, playing with the diet and the herbal medicines and the supplements and all of those things after the antibiotics that, like I said, my neurological symptoms got way worse after that. So it was just rebuilding my nervous system. I went into like a paleo approach, kind of AIP diet that again made me way worse. I was starving my nervous system of the critical glucose that the body needs in order to heal. And I actually developed things like internal tremors. My body was just shaking out of a need for like glucose, fruit, things that help the body heal. And I was, eating all the wrong things out of fear, out of these doctors telling me like, this is what your body needs. And intuitively it felt wrong, but it was like, you're in this scary place, fight or flight, I have to get better mode, that like losing everything inside of you that's pointing you in the direction, just kind of like hammering at like, I have to get better. So eventually I got to a place where my husband and I decided we were going to get pregnant. Like I got somewhat stable. I wouldn't say I was like good by any means, but I was like, okay. I was back at work. I was functioning. Had my son, and within months after having him, my health, just crumbled to the ground. I, at that point, was diagnosed with thyroid antibodies, Hashimoto's. My thyroid stimulating hormone was 93. And if you know anything about thyroid or have kind of gotten into that world, you want yourself between like 1.5. Mine was 93. Extremely scary. I wasn't functioning and was at a very scary place, both physically and emotionally. And kind of had this little breakdown, if you will, one night on my knees, begging God, like, please give me the next step, the next direction, because I don't really know what to do from here. I was writing a will because I thought that my son wasn't going to have me. I thought that I wasn't going to make it. My body was just breaking down. And the next morning I found a link up on my computer screen to Anthony Williams' first book called Medical Medium. And at first I was like, I'm Christian, this is weird, like I don't know. But in the pages, I read my story. I read the story of my nervous system breaking down. I read about the pathogens. I read about heavy metals and viruses and all of these things that, are affecting the system. And little by little by little, I watched my health transform completely.
Yeah. So exciting. I love that. And I'm so curious, like, it's so important. There are so many different culprits for why we feel shitty, right? Excuse my language. So many different ways and why our bodies aren't, working in optimal health. But I was curious about this. I think they're called the four unforgiving four that you just mentioned some of, but can you speak about those and how important it is to actually like really acknowledge that there are some serious factors when it comes to our body and our health that aren't just necessarily like what foods we eat or what supplements or medications we're taking or how much we're meditating, but can you speak to those?
Yeah. So I love to describe this to people as a bucket. People get really scared when I say, it's viruses, it's toxicity, it's your environment, it's the food that you're eating. People get really nervous because they think there's, what do I do? And I like to explain it like a bucket. You've got this bucket, and in the bucket, we've got everyone walking around has viruses, they have toxicities, they have these things in their body. But when the bucket starts to overflow, that's when we start to see symptoms. And our job is to calm everything down and keep it so our body can keep everything in check. Our immune system can function by keeping everything, at status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize there are things like heavy metals. There are things
Right.
like things that we get passed down generation to generation. Ask your grandparents, did they run behind the mosquito trucks and breathe that stuff in? You know, DDT. People don't realize that those things are still affecting our bodies, and our bodies can only handle so much. So think of that bucket. It's filling up, viruses, heavy metals. And, you know, as it comes boiling over the top, we see these strange symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's Lyme, and maybe it's autoimmunity, and maybe it's who knows what it is. But when we can kind of get a handle on that, and we can get our body, you know, working for us, and we can get some of the heavy metals out, and we really start to detox the body and get it, you know, in a clean place, and kind of get our pH at a place where we're not feeding viruses.
Right.
And kind of like hanging on to all those pathogens, then we start to see the symptoms disappear.
And you spoke about, I mean, I'm just so fascinated, and I find this in my own work with clients as well, is like, there are toxicities that can be passed down. How is that happening from your perspective? How is that happening?
Yeah. So when we have children, and this is everyone, it doesn't matter how clean we are or how much we detoxed, the baby obviously gets passed down part of what's in us, what's in our partner. And, you know, giving birth is actually like a detox to a woman. So, you know, everything that's in the body actually goes to the baby. So we want to make sure when we go get pregnant that we are, you know, as clean as possible. And then we want to make sure that we're feeding our kids, you know, correctly, so that they're not hanging on to the toxicities and things that come from our bodies. But yes, they can get passed down generation to generation, just like, you know, other things.
Yeah. It's just so
It's
fascinating.
scary. Yeah, it's scary, but it can also be empowering to know, like, okay, well, now I can do something about it. And that's where I really like to speak with my clients.
Right.
Don't take this information as like, oh my gosh, now I'm like scared and I'm fearful and all these things. And I like to really let people know that it's not just you and it's not just me. And, you know, maybe your neighbor, your friend, your mom, people don't have these symptoms that maybe we've experienced, but that doesn't mean it's not there. There's something there in their body, and either their body is managing it or, you know, it's not. But everyone has something. And, you know, we're just blessed to have information to kind of, you know, allow our bodies to function at a better level.
Right. And I just love that too, of like, really, it's not about being a victim to it. In fact, it almost feels more empowering than just like, oh, great, I have this genetic thing that's been passed down and I'm a victim to my genes or what is being passed down through the generations. It's like, oh, actually, oh, okay, the heavy metals are passed down. I can actually get rid of those. I can do something about it. How empowering.
Yes, and I will speak to that. Anthony William talks about all the time, things like Hashimoto's, thyroid disease. And in my particular family, my grandmother had thyroid issues. My mom had thyroid issues. And then here comes my thyroid issues right after I have my first baby. And it's like, wait, this is super empowering. I don't have to be on this medication for the rest of my life. I don't need to be my grandmother or my mom. Like, I can do something now. I can take control. I can change what I'm doing in my body. And maybe I don't need to be on that medication for the rest of my life. It's not just genes. There are other factors, and you know, we can, you know, work on the body to not be the next one in the family line.
Right. Yes. I'm curious about the body's role in keeping trauma kind of stuck in the nervous system. Can you speak about that and how we can actually do things to shift it?
Yeah. So we always talk about the brain when we talk about trauma, but it really can have to do with the brain and the body. So when we have these things, these viruses, these toxicities, the heavy metals, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, our adrenals being a wreck, it makes it hard. So even if you are doing all the meditating or you're doing all these brain techniques to bring your body back into balance, sometimes the body can still be in fight or flight. I have clients that tell me, you know, I'm doing all these things. I'm, you know, meditating and I'm being quiet and I'm doing my self-care and all of that. And my body can be falling asleep at night and it's jolting out of sleep. You know, my nervous system is just jolting out of sleep. I'm not stressed out about anything. It's not a stressful time, but my body is so stressed out. So when the body is overburdened, go back to that bucket. Here's the body overburdened with all of these things, these viruses, these toxicities. And the body just can't handle all of that. So the nervous system, you know, we have the vagus nerve and the phrenic nerve. They're both involved in that fight or flight, being turned on or being turned off. So the vagus and the phrenic nerve can be triggered by both viruses and by heavy metals. And those things can keep the body in fight or flight, as well as the adrenals and the liver. And, it's all connected. I sometimes hate to like single out these pieces.
Right.
It really is all connected, and we really have to work on our whole body.
Right.
But the liver and the adrenals and all those things are very, very important. So the body's ability to turn that fight or flight off has a lot to do with going after these viruses, or, bringing the body back to a pH state so that it's not, we're not feeding the pathogens in the body. Getting rid of some of these heavy metals so that our brain isn't lighting up. Those are things that Anthony talks about. And then the adrenals, doing all we can to nourish and heal the adrenals. And we can, if you want, we can talk a little bit about, foods and supplements,
Definitely.
things that can kind of help. So I'm actually going to quote Anthony here just because this is so critical. This information is critical. Like I mentioned, when I first got sick, I went into like AIP and paleo thinking that, okay, no sugar, no carbohydrates, get rid of all that stuff. And how I actually never had anxiety in my life until I got rid of fruit, and I got rid of the glucose that was making, which keeps our cells happy and alive and keeps our brain stable. And I just want to read this. On a physiological level, trauma causes a chemical imbalance in the brain that occurs when someone experiences trauma. Glucose is a protective biochemical that provides a cell of protection for sensitive brain and neurological issues. And if there isn't enough glucose stored in the brain to feed the central nervous system, then the brain is it's no longer protected, and it becomes corrosive to the adrenaline and the cortisol released during stress. So emotional upheaval can create lasting effects. If someone's glucose storage is low, you can get PTSD just from like your kid crying, or like something, the tiniest little things in life can just send you into a spin. Whereas when you're centered and calm and grounded, you can get a flat tire on the side of the road and have to deal with something really stressful, and you can still feel like, you might be up a little bit, but you come back.
Right.
And I'm sure you know what it feels like to just be in that constant state of fight or flight and stress. And then the tiniest little thing can just send you, whoo.
Totally.
That is exactly what I experienced when it came to when I got rid of all of those things. And I'm not talking about now, having, one apple and a couple cherries. I'm talking about having that glucose throughout the day. The number one thing for getting out of fight or flight is keeping your adrenals happy. And we do that by eating every hour and a half to 2 hours. When you're when I'm under a ton of stress, or when my clients are under a ton of stress, I tell them eat every hour. You pair together not only glucose, not just fruit, but mineral salts, so greens. So pairing them together every hour and a half really nourishes the adrenals, and you can actually feel your body come down. It's amazing. You spend a couple months up in fight or flight, you start doing that, and it's like, whew, this is what it feels like to feel normal again. And that is my experience when I started with this work.
That's so interesting. I am so fascinated by that. I mean, because I was on the Candida diet for like 7 years. So I'm talking no fruit, no sugar, nada, not even like potatoes, sweet potato. It was like, I was so particular because I, at that time I had taken 7 rounds of antibiotics and was like, so like, just so sick. And that was the only way I knew to feel better. But
it's kind of like what I went through. So you may cringe when we get to the foods, when I tell you the things that actually.
Oh, no. I eat completely differently. Because
okay.
Like, oh my gosh, this isn't working for me. But I never really knew. I mean, I knew that my brain needed sugar, and that's partly why I started eating fruit and everything still again. And I do honey and maple syrup and all these things, but
awesome
now. But that's just so fascinating to me, the layers of that, and the importance of actually eating the glucose, and really, watching and listening to your body, and
eating often enough, because as soon as you let your blood sugar drop and you don't eat often enough, the alarms go off. So you could be in a totally fine state, and all of a sudden you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, I haven't eaten in a couple hours. And now all of a sudden this massive anxiety attack. Well, why did that just happen? Well, because your nervous system is just flooded with adrenaline, and there's nothing there to stop that.
Right.
So if you maybe if you ate something, it would have never happened.
Right. Yeah. So interesting. We call it in my house, me getting really hangry.
I was just going to use that word.
Oh my gosh. I become such a bear if I have
me too.
husband. I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yep.
Literally do not talk to me, or I'm going to say something I'm going to regret.
Yep. Give me the food.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting. So yeah, I'm curious. I want to talk about food. I want to
Yeah.
talk about how to support the brain. And then there are some things, but let's just dive right into some of, first, let's talk about the food and how we
Yeah.
support ourselves and our brain and actually staying regulated and happy and healthy.
Yeah, so I love to say yellow and orange foods. They're the sunshine, so things like oranges and bananas are so super important. Wild blueberries are an adaptogen. Melons, persimmons, papayas, all of these foods are just amazing for the adrenals. Potatoes, sweet potatoes. I know I stopped eating potatoes and all those things for a long time too. And then when you start to eat them again, it's like, whew, this is like what my body
Thank
actually
goodness.
and loves, and now I eat potatoes every single day.
Right.
If someone would have told me that back then, it would have been like, oh my gosh, like you're eating all these potatoes. It's crazy. Mangoes. Anthony talks about in his book, Life Changing Foods, mangoes take the heat. So when I'm super stressed out, I actually take an entire bag of frozen mangoes. I throw them in my Vitamix with coconut water. And that is like the most calming elixir that you could possibly come up with. It is so good. And again, you can actually, feel your body coming down from that fight or flight. So these are things that you can do to help your body and your brain. Obviously they work together, come out of that fight or flight. Tangerines, apples, raw honey, you mentioned that. Raw honey is just unbelievable. If you have some kind of mood going on, whether it's anxiety or depression or just feeling fear or whatever it is, honey actually, within minutes can change your mood. Honey is also really fuels our nervous system. When I had my daughter, I don't know if you've read my stories. My first birth was like crazy traumatic. My second birth was a natural unmedicated birth. And I actually used honey while I was pushing for energy. So every time I got really depleted, my midwife was just giving me spoonfuls of honey. And it really helped with my recovery and just having the energy to birth her. And I love honey. Every day it's, some kind of medicinal tea with a good amount of honey on the bottom of my mason jar, just to keep everything, it is highly antiviral as well as really good for our adrenals.
Right. Wow. I love that. And, it's just so interesting because I'm noticing, I've changed the way I eat, and I'm, and with my clients, I'm always speaking about, the importance of the balance and all of it. And yet I know somewhere in me, my brain is still saying like, sugar is bad. Sugar is bad.
Oh yeah. I mean, cakes and things like that are not great for us. But think about it though. Anytime you've been through massive stress, what do you crave? You want to go, if you're really stressed out, you don't eat at all. That's like a physiological, your body just shuts down. But if you're under stress, you're not going to go grab you are going for cakes and cookies and chocolate. Women love chocolate. I mean, look at when you get your menstrual cycle, women are always looking for chocolate. It is because our bodies need that glucose. That's what it is. And women that have weight issues and men too, I shouldn't just say women. So just excuse me. I work with a lot of women. I was saying to Chloe earlier, I work with a lot of women, and then after the women get better, they send me their husbands so that they can get better too. So it's not that I don't work with men. I do, but I work with a lot of women. People that are struggling with weight, we are kind of in this place of, we want sugar, sugar, sugar. You start eating fruit and you will not crave that stuff. And that is like an amazing thing. My own father, for years had these like sugar cravings and this and that. I'm like, Dad, just start drinking fresh orange juice, start eating fruit. And he lost a ton of weight and he's like, I don't crave that stuff anymore. Like I just don't even want it. It's because the need is met. The body is searching for that, by those cravings. So it's pretty neat.
Totally.
When you start eating correctly, you don't have that.
Right. Yeah. So interesting, and I see that in my daughter. She's like constantly wanting sugar, and I'm always like, oh gosh, she's becoming a sugar addict like I was. And, I get all anxious because she's having honey on her toast in the morning. And I'm like, oh, well, this is amazing. And like how to actually weave in the good sugars, the way
exactly
empower ourselves through that instead of, going to refined white sugar all the time, but
load them up on sugar and they won't want that stuff. People they look and they're like, you let your kids eat all these fruit. Like fruit can be dinner. Like a plate of fruit is that's great for them. It's fantastic for them. And years ago, the kids would have like an apple with their lunch or whatever, but really a plate of fruit, there's nothing more nourishing than that. So it's really cool to see people start to understand that and see the change in not only in themselves and their children.
Yeah. And do you find that it begins to build like more resilience and just being able to handle stress in life, and like kids are even more calm, or adults who have been through trauma who are kind of constantly in that fight flight, that it actually does just like create more of a balanced homeostasis of not being in fight or flight.
I have seen it time after time after time. Not only with myself. I was kind of told you briefly. I went through a period of like not even being able to sleep because I was so wound up when I went through what I went through. And in my case, it wasn't just anxiety because what I was going through. It was actually my body being inflamed because of the viruses and because of things that were going on. But absolutely, it's like the fire is put out by having the glucose. Like Anthony says, the glucose storage bin. So if you're eating this way and fueling your adrenals all the time, then your body is able to adapt and handle stress. It's not to say you won't get stressed out if something crazy happens, but your body will go up and get stressed like it's supposed to, and it will come back down. It's like they say with the, chasing the tiger thing. We're meant to be able to run. But after we run away, we're supposed to be able to come back down and rest and digest. We're not supposed to be up in this fight or flight all the time, because that's just feeding things in our bodies. It's not good for us to be in this for long periods of time.
Wow, feels so empowering to just hear all about this. So I'm getting excited. I am curious. So how do you, like, when someone comes to you and they're dealing with all these weird symptoms, like, how do you actually figure out, is it a virus? Is it a pathogen that's infecting them? Is it toxicity? Is it heavy metals? Are you following like clues and signs, or how do you actually read somebody's body?
So I'm highly intuitive. It's just something that I've had my entire life, and I was kind of afraid of it until I kind of got into this work, and I realized that my own intuition the entire time I wasn't well was spot on. And if I would have listened to myself from the beginning, I would have never gone through what I went through. But I got myself into that fight or flight, and I got scared, and I thought, well, who the heck am I to listen to myself? So I'm going to go and chase a diagnosis and get on medication and do what our society tells us to do. So when I'm working with clients, I'm tuning in and I'm just kind of listening to everything they have to say. And if you've gone through a health struggle, that in itself is healing. Because how many times do we go to an appointment, we talk for 5 minutes, and it's like, wait a minute, there's 150 other things going on in my body, and you didn't even listen to any of it. So for myself, when I start listening, my intuition works when I listen to people talk. And as they're talking, the clues kind of come together, and I can just feel, most of the time it's viral and toxicity. We all live on planet Earth, so we have an accumulation of both of these things. And then just by really studying Anthony's work, and my work before had to do with anatomy and physiology. So to me, it just kind of all fits together with everything I've studied. And by using Anthony's information, I am able to just piece it all together and then help people to create a protocol specific for their body. A lot of times people will try to do these things on their own, and they're just not taking the correct supplements or enough. And they're shocked to see, like, oh, I was taking enough, for example, B12, for a 30-pound child, or vice versa. They're taking, 35 supplements, and their body is like, what, this is too much. So it's just about really tuning in and listening to each specific situation. There is no one size fits all, at all for anyone. And just listening to each specific thing, and recommending the things that will bring the viruses down, bring the body back into balance, really focusing on the adrenals, on the liver, working on getting, the heavy metals out of the body. And then you start to see change. Of course there's rough cases where people are, it takes longer, but I've seen people in a matter of weeks turn around major illness.
Love it. And what are some of the supplements that support us finding health?
So zinc and B12 are huge. Those are two that, our soil is very depleted. So having enough zinc is critical for our immune system to be able to function optimally. And as far as stress goes, and our adrenals, my favorite supplement is lemon balm. I mean, lemon balm is so amazing. And that's actually what's in my tea right here. This, as you'll see. But lemon balm in tincture form is, completely supportive of our adrenal glands. It's also highly antiviral. So it's like a win-win. You're kind of working on both at the same time. So it's amazing. It's nice for like an everyday type of thing. There's a supplement called Neuromag that I really love. It works with the brain and just kind of calming, bringing everything down. I have women tell me, women that struggle with addiction, women that have, you know, their couple glasses of wine every night when they come home from work, Neuromag, along with eating enough fruit so that they're not having those sugar, glucose cravings,
Right.
and Neuromag. And I have plenty of women tell me that that combination, along with obviously changing what they're eating and things like that, the Neuromag actually feels to them like the calming effects of having like that glass of wine. They actually feel their body calming down. Neuromag is one that I always say I'll take it to the grave. It's one of my favorite supplements. And to this day, when I feel myself going through a stressful patch in life, I will still, you know, I will reach for the Neuromag, because I believe that it's better to support our bodies and support our adrenals than to go through high stress without any support and then crash. So those are just some other favorites: nettle and red raspberry leaf tea too. And they can be in tincture form as well. Those are just a couple of my favorite things for, licorice root. How can we forget licorice when we're talking about the adrenals? Licorice root nourishes the adrenal glands. And again, antiviral as well. So it's kind of like a win-win.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh my goodness, there's so many. I'm like, ooh, firing off all these cool things. And it's so funny because I'm somebody, and I think a lot of our people listening, you know, a lot of us have cleaned up our diet, and a lot of us aren't eating the like processed foods or whatever.
Right.
And yet it's like we're following kind of a one size fits all, or somebody goes paleo or somebody goes raw or whatever. And yet it's like, feels so empowering to know like, oh, this is like, it's really important to put this into your body, and this will support you in this way, instead of just like, don't eat these things, you know?
And I always try to go in that direction with people. You know, people can come at healing as this like deprivation. I actually have a really great blog on the website about it. People come into it as this deprived thing of, oh, I can't have this, and this. And it's like, okay, you can't have those things, but what can you eat?
Right.
Like, go on my Instagram and look at the amazing food that we are eating in this family. Like, it's beautiful and it's colorful and it's healing and it's exciting.
Right.
There is no deprivation. And if you're missing like comfort foods, like, you know, I have some moms come to me and their kids want like mac and cheese or whatever it is. There's a way to make all of those things, you know, plant-based and without feeding pathogens in the body. So, you know, it's also, I always say to people, you know, I don't know what to make. I don't know what to do. It's really relaxing and calming to think like, okay, I can make all these fancy things if I want to. And if I don't want to, I can have like a beautiful salad or a big plate of fruit, and I'm still nourishing my body without doing this whole massive cooking, juggling act.
Right.
And that's like really, you know, as someone that has kids, you know, to just say like, okay, I'm tired tonight. I'm going to make this beautiful plate of, you know, fruits and veggies. And that is perfectly fine. I don't have to like be grilling a chicken and doing all these standing on my head in the kitchen. I can just keep it simple.
Right. Well, and it's just so funny because I'm like, there's some weird thing. Well, I think, and it's in our culture too, of like, don't overfeed your kids sugar, or like, they can't just have a plate of fruit for dinner because they need, you know, whatever they need, you know, they need the protein, they need this, they need that. And
and I can speak to that for a second too, because the fruit fear thing is huge. People are so afraid of fruit. And it's not, people think protein. It's not protein that we need. It's calories. Our body runs on calories and glucose. You look at breast milk. Breast milk is not full of, it's very little protein. It's very little fat. It's sugar water, not, you know, M&M sugar water. It's glucose that our brains need from fruit. So that is like a huge model. If you're growing a baby in your body and that's what your body is putting out, that should be a big clue to all of us. Like, okay, that's what we should be eating. Our bodies need glucose. Babies eat every 2 hours. There you go. Another thing that we should be, you know, paying attention to. And when it comes to that, you know, eating every couple hours and eating the fruit, people are like, they're very afraid of that. I lost my train of thought of what the question was.
No, I was just sort of speaking to like, oh, right. And then there's this anxiety they'd eat a whole plate of fruit. And instead I'm like, okay, well, let's get them a grilled cheese or something. And it's like, well, that's that's just a bunch of starch.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the calories we need. So if we weren't lazy, and this is as a society, we all think, okay, eat the burger, you'll be full for 6 hours. Eat this big plate of protein or fat or whatever it is, and you'll be full. You can go from morning to, 6 hours without eating anything. You'll feel fine. Our bodies are just not designed to work that way. We're not supposed to go 6 hours without food. We are supposed to eat every couple hours to keep our adrenal glands full. And if you're eating that way, doing a combination of glucose and mineral salts will make you feel amazing. We're not meant to go these long. Like I said before, our bodies actually go into fight or flight when we wait too long to eat in between meals. So if you get into this like grazing mentality, then your adrenals heal and you just start to feel better and better.
So interesting. And I'm curious, I think we're going to need to wrap it up here, and you are offering this amazing meditation that we're going to weave right in here. But I know you work with a lot of moms and kids, and being a mom myself, it's so stressful. It's like, it's just like constantly
for all of us.
on, right? And so I'm curious, talking a bit about like the trauma that women and moms are dealing with just on a daily basis. And also like, especially moms that are dealing with chronic conditions and depression, anxiety, all these different things. Like, can you just speak to that and give us a little pep talk?
Yes. And I will say to you that people look at me and they're like, oh, you're the lady that does all this stuff. Like, you're stressed too? Of course, I live on planet Earth. I always say that. I have 2 kids. As moms, as women, we are like keeping the wheels together. We're always keeping everything, keeping everything together. So that in itself is stressful. And in our society, everything is fast at our fingertips, on our phones, on our computers, answering an email, all those things. So it's this not being able to be mindful and focus on one specific thing at a time. We're kind of like drawn into this. Our energy is all over the place. And then on top of it, our society tells us that people that are struggling with things like PTSD are people that are coming back from war, or there's someone that went through some very huge traumatic event, but that's not true. Women, men, families that struggle with chronic illness, whether in themselves, whether with their children, those families definitely have trauma, PTSD, whatever you want to call it, just from day-to-day life, and that's not always accepted in society. People don't realize that going through a struggle like that does put a tremendous amount of pressure and stress on the family. And those kind of things are never talked about. Those women feel ridiculous talking to other women about the fact that like, I'm totally stressed, I'm dealing with all these things. It's almost like hidden in our society. Like, how dare you feel stressed out about taking care of your 2 children or your 4 children that you're so blessed to have? Of course we're blessed. It's the best thing in the whole world. But there is stress involved. And, the fact that society tells you that it's not okay to be, in that space is not exactly, the best. We are meant to be in tribes. We're meant to have support. We're meant to have other women. We're meant to have, they say it takes a village, and that is so true. We're not supposed to be on our own navigating these things. And the other thing about trauma and chronic illness and chronic symptoms, even when people recover, there's always that thought of like, oh my gosh, what if it happened again? And it's living in that place of like, now I've got myself to a great place. Now, are my kids going to go through things? Are my kids going to struggle? Do I have to like micromanage that and make sure that my kids are doing well? And like, how do I keep myself well? And what about my partner and all of those things? So it is okay. And there are, there are traumatic events in everyday life. And I think that women just need to learn to honor themselves, to really focus on that self-care, even if it's, as women, we say, I don't have time for it. I can't do it. It's so important to just take the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if you can, a day to just be present with yourself, to just show yourself some kind of compassion and love and understanding, whether that's a salt bath or some painting or some dancing or some journaling, whatever it is, to just really connect with ourselves. It's invaluable.
Beautiful. And the meditation you're offering us will give us those 10 minutes to relax and take care of ourselves today.
I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you so much for the meditation that you're about to experience.
Welcome to Flow and Let It Go, a yoga meditation based on the Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy method, created with the intention to help you come back to your body. Phoenix Rising is a process around paying attention, a way to notice what is happening inside of you which in turn affects what is happening outside of you. It's all about using your body as a tool to tune in to what is happening in your life. Paying attention to what is keeping you from fully engaging in your work, in your relationships, and with yourself. It's time to tune in. Right now, you have an opportunity to slow down and to become more present to this very moment. This is a practice that helps you release stress while gaining valuable insight to the flow of your life. Let's begin the process of diving in. Please close your eyes. I have nothing to show you. It's all within you. Standing or seated, take a big deep breath in through your nose and let it flow out your mouth with a sigh or a ha. Do that again. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Exhale and let your breath fall out of your mouth effortlessly. Now gently start breathing naturally. Notice your body here and now. Feel your posture, your shape and space, your whole body here and now. Notice your spine and begin to lift your spine and establish a firm seat or stance. Engage your body now. Take a bigger breath in and let that breath go. Begin to move with your inhalation. Stretch your arms up, and as you exhale, bring your arms back down to rest at your sides. Re-engage your arms, reaching up towards the sky, taking a few long breaths, using your breaths to exaggerate the length of your body. A few more long breaths reaching through your core. This time, as you exhale, let your arms come back down and hang effortlessly at your sides. Bring your hands to prayer position, to heart center. With an inhalation, bring your arms up towards the sky. With exhalation, bring your arms back down to heart center. Repeat this, breathing in, lifting your arms, and breathing out, bringing your arms back to heart center. Do this 1 or 2 more times, moving mindfully with your breath. Feel your body. As your hands come back to heart center, turn your palms in, placing them on your chest. Making contact with your body now, creating connection. Feel your body here now beneath your hands. Be aware of the connection you have with your body here now. The presence that you have with yourself here now. Sense how you want to feel and how you want to feel from practicing this yoga meditation, and hold that in your conscious awareness. Focus on that for a few breaths now. Take a bigger breath to focus on your intention. And as you breathe out, allow yourself to let go of anything holding you back. With that, allow your hands to fall into your lap. Reconnect to your breath here and now. As you bring awareness to your breath, notice the qualities, the sensations of breath here in your body now. Breathing in, feel your body's sensations. Breathing in. Breathing out, feel your body's sensations. Breathing out. Be here now. Allow breath and body to hold you to this present moment. Breathing in, feel your body. Breathing out, feel your body. Be mindful of what is happening in your thinking brain. Perhaps thoughts, visions, or even self-talk. Just be aware of it. Acknowledge it. And then let it float away and let it go. Feeling your body breathe in. Feeling your body breathe out. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do right now. Breathing in, feel your body. breathing in. Breathing out, feel your body, breathing out. Here now, present to this breath. Here now, present to the sensations of your body. There's no need to change or fix or try to create your breath or try to form any experience. Just allow yourself to be. Witness yourself here in this natural space. Breathing in, knowing you are breathing in. Feeling your body, breathing in. Breathing out, knowing you are breathing out. Feeling your body, breathing out. Stay with the simplicity of your breath here, in your body now. You might hear sounds around you, just acknowledge them. Feel your body as you come back to your breath now. In this breath, feel your body here now. Sense yourself in this breath. Sense the experience you are having in this breath here. There's no need to try to edit it. There's no need to prevent sensations or change your experience. Simply allow awareness. Feel your body. Feel your breath. Make your breath a little deeper now. Make your exhalation a little louder now. Take one of those big falling out breaths now. Breathing in, sighing out. Breathe in to full capacity. Release with exhalation. Take another deep breath in. And release with even a longer exhalation. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Feeling your body here now. Sensing your body here now. Feeling your breath here now. Just notice. Take a moment to reflect on this practice and notice what you are taking from this time of being truly present to yourself. And notice what your body wants you to do with this takeaway. Perhaps there's some action of self-care or action of honoring yourself or expressing yourself in the world or in your family, or some action in being present to yourself in a new way. Notice the best way to care for your body, your whole being. And as we let this time come to an end, prepare to open your eyes and re-engage with life. Acknowledge this time that you have given to yourself. Namaste.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful meditation. And oh my goodness, thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here with us. And I just want to close up by letting you talk about a little bit about your free ebook that people can get here. There's a button below where they can claim the ebook, but can you talk about it quickly?
Sure. Yeah, I've put together my favorite foods for bringing the nervous system back into balance. There are tons of them, but these are just the ones that I personally go to when I'm feeling in a chronic state of stress. There is some kind of little brief description of each food and what it does for the body, and I really hope you enjoy it. It's right at reclaimersofhealth.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that gift. I can't wait to go check it out, and just feeling really inspired and empowered by this conversation. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you
all
so
your
much. I
amazing
appreciate
wisdom.
it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you all for listening. Have fun putting it
you.
all into practice. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.